अखिल भारतीय मराठा शिक्षण परिषद के अनंतराव पवार कॉलेज ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर में आप सबका तहे दिल से स्वागत है। अनंतराव पवार कॉलेज ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर यह महाविद्यालय अखिल भारतीय मराठा शिक्षण परिषद द्वारा संचालित किया जा रहा है। तो जान लेते हैं इतिहास अखिल भारतीय मराठा शिक्षण परिषद का, जिसकी स्थापना 1907 में कोल्हापुर के महाराजा श्री शाहू महाराज जी के हाथों से हुई थी। कई महान हस्तियों का संस्था के विकास और प्रसार में बहुमूल्य योगदान रहा है। उनमें विचारवंत और समाज सुधारक महान शिक्षण योगी महात्मा ज्योतिराव फुले पुणे, श्री श्रीमंत सयाजीराव गायकवाड़ बड़ौदा और श्री श्रीमंत अलीजा बहादुर माधवराव महाराज शिंदे ग्वालियर जुड़े हैं। बहुजन हिताय बहुजन सुखाय घोषवाक्य लेकर महाराष्ट्र के विभिन्न प्रदेशों में जैसे कि मुंबई, पुणे, नासिक, नागपुर, सोलापुर, बारामती, अमरावती, धुले, धारवाड़, भुसावल, जट, जबलपुर में शाखाएं विस्तारित हैं। अखिल भारतीय मराठा शिक्षण परिषद के अध्यक्ष माननीय शरद चंद्र पवार जी का हमेशा ही संस्था के विकास में बहुमूल्य मार्गदर्शन और सहयोग रहा है। अखिल भारतीय मराठा शिक्षण परिषद का पूरा कारोबार संभालने में और चलाने में माननीय अजित दादा पवार, डिप्टी चीफ मिनिस्टर महाराष्ट्र राज्य, माननीय शशिकांत सुतार, वाइस प्रेसिडेंट, माननीय गायकवाड़, जनरल सेक्रेटरी, माननीय संदीप कदम, जॉइंट सेक्रेटरी, डिस्ट्रिक्ट एजुकेशन चेंबर ऑफ सावित्रीबाई फुले पुणे यूनिवर्सिटी, माननीय भगवान राव साळुंखे और वसंतराव थोरात, अनंतराव पवार कॉलेज ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर इस महाविद्यालय विकास समिति में अनेक मान्यवर शामिल हैं। अनंतराव पवार कॉलेज ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर महाविद्यालय में सल्लागार समिति में भारत के विभिन्न प्रदेशों से काफी प्रतिष्ठित ज्ञानी लोगों का सहभाग और मूल्यवान मार्गदर्शन हमेशा रहता है। विजन: गिविंग एनवायरमेंट फ्रेंडली एजुकेशन इन ग्रीन कैंपस, create awareness for natural resources with social concern, and to become a responsible citizen. Mission: train the students to apply their knowledge in designing the socially concerned spaces with efficient utilization of natural resources. Acknowledge students the relation of natural and built environment in globalized architectural context. Develop leadership qualities among students. Objectives: imparting quality education for all levels. Provide healthy environment for physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual growth of students and staff. Create aesthetically sensitive, socially acceptable, and technologically competent architecture pattern. भारत के ऑक्सफोर्ड ऑफ ईस्ट से जाने जाने वाले महाराष्ट्र के पूना में बसा हुआ ये कॉलेज, जो एयरपोर्ट से केवल 12 किलोमीटर, रेलवे स्टेशन से 8 किलोमीटर दूर है, सुविधाओं के साथ ये पूरा कैंपस संपन्न है। हरा भरा 70 एकड़ का कैंपस पुणे के मध्य में प्रसिद्ध पर्वती मंदिर के पास है, सोलर एनर्जी पावर के सप्लाई और सुरक्षा रक्षकों की निगरानी में है। पूरे कैंपस में 2 लाख से भी ज्यादा औषधि और जंगली पेड़ पौधे हैं और रेन वाटर हार्वेस्टिंग प्लांट लगा हुआ है। अखिल भारतीय मराठा शिक्षण परिषद में एकत्रित सुविधाएं हैं, जिनमें इंडोर और आउटडोर खेल के मैदान, व्यायामशाला, स्विमिंग पूल और पर्याप्त पार्किंग की सुविधाएं हैं और कैंपस में वाईफाई इंटरनेट भी उपलब्ध है। पूरे कैंपस में आर्किटेक्चर के अलावा आर्ट्स, कॉमर्स, साइंस, इंजीनियरिंग के साथ आईटीआई इंडस्ट्रियल ट्रेनिंग कोर्स भी है। पूरे कैंपस में इवेंट्स में सभी एकत्रित होते हैं, जैसे कि छत्रपति शाहू महाराज जयंती, शिक्षक दिन, रिपब्लिक और इंडिपेंडेंस डे, जहां पर एनसीसी कैडेट की नेत्र दीपक मार्चिंग देखने को भी मिलती है। अपना ये आर्किटेक्चर कॉलेज सन 2014 में शुरू हुआ और अब तक हमारी 2 बैचेस के स्टूडेंट्स पास होकर आर्किटेक्चर में करियर कर रहे हैं। हमारे मैनेजमेंट के सपोर्ट से महाविद्यालय का पूरा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर काउंसिल ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर कॉलेज के नियमानुसार पूरी तरह से उपलब्ध है। कॉलेज ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर में सारे स्टूडियो, स्टूडेंट्स ड्राफ्टिंग टेबल, लैपटॉप चार्जिंग के साथ संपन्न हैं। सारे लेक्चर हॉल्स में ऑडियो विजुअल फैसिलिटी उपलब्ध है। कॉलेज की लाइब्रेरी में 10,860 किताबों के साथ 50 आसन क्षमता वाला वाचनालय है। बहुत सारे सॉफ्टवेयर के साथ कंप्यूटर लैब भी सुसज्ज है। साइट सर्वे के लिए सर्वेइंग इक्विपमेंट लैब और बिल्डिंग कंस्ट्रक्शन विषयों के लिए अलग से मटेरियल्स के स्टडी लैब हैं। स्टूडेंट्स को हैंड्स ऑन एक्सपीरियंस के लिए कारपेंट्री और फैब्रिकेशन वर्कशॉप भी उपलब्ध हैं। सांस्कृतिक कार्यक्रमों के लिए उपयोगी विद्यार्थियों के लिए एक कलादालन भी है। बॉयज और गर्ल्स के लिए कॉमन रूम, कैंटीन, कंस्ट्रक्शन यार्ड और मल्टीपर्पज हॉल की सुविधाएं भी उपलब्ध है। अन्य शहर और गांव से आए हुए विद्यार्थियों के लिए गर्ल्स और बॉयज के लिए अलग-अलग सुसज्ज वसति गृह की व्यवस्था भी है। प्राचार्य कक्ष और एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन मीटिंग हॉल है। एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन एरिया जो कार्यालयीन कामकाज के लिए उपलब्ध है और प्राध्यापक कक्ष की सुविधा जिनमें विद्यार्थियों के साथ संवाद भी किया जा सकता है। छात्रों के लिए गवर्नमेंट ऑफ महाराष्ट्र से इनमें ईबीसी, एससी, एसटी, एसबीसी, ओबीसी, वीजेएनटी, माइनॉरिटी और अपने अखिल भारतीय मराठा शिक्षण परिषद से नियोजित छात्रवृत्ति नीडी, स्कॉलर एंड इकोनॉमिकली बैकवर्ड स्टूडेंट्स छात्रों को मिलती है। अब जानते हैं अपने अध्यापकों के बारे में। अपने कॉलेज के माननीय प्राचार्य डॉक्टर राजेंद्र बी कोड़ी सर यूजीसी अप्रूव्ड और अर्थक्वेक डिजाइन के विशेषज्ञ हैं। उनका कुल 31 साल का अध्यापन और प्रोफेशनल अनुभव है। वो सब्जेक्ट एक्सपर्ट और काउंसिल ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर न्यू दिल्ली के नॉमिनी हैं। अपने कॉलेज में अनुभवी विशेषज्ञ अध्यापक जो कि बहुविद्या विभूषित है, काउंसिल ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर और सावित्रीबाई फुले पुणे यूनिवर्सिटी से प्रमाणित है और जिनका अनुभव लगभग 5 से 35 साल तक का है। इस तरह से हैं एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर्स और उनके स्पेशलाइजेशंस। प्रोफेसर शैलजा एनवायरमेंटल आर्किटेक्चर, प्रोफेसर शिल्पा आर्किटेक्चरल कंजर्वेशन, प्रोफेसर अभिजीत एनवायरमेंटल आर्किटेक्चर, प्रोफेसर योगेश डिजिटल आर्किटेक्चर, प्रोफेसर प्रमोद जनरल आर्किटेक्चर, प्रोफेसर भरत PhD in Structural Design, प्रोफेसर महुआ बिस्वास, कंस्ट्रक्शन मैनेजमेंट। असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर्स और उनके स्पेशलाइजेशंस, प्रोफेसर सुनील, एनवायरनमेंट डिजाइन एंड आर्किटेक्चर, प्रोफेसर अलमास, PhD in लैंडस्केप डिजाइन, प्रोफेसर राहुल, इंटीरियर प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट, प्रोफेसर पाटिल, कंस्ट्रक्शन प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट, प्रोफेसर वैशाली, एनवायरमेंटल आर्किटेक्चर, प्रोफेसर पूजा, लैंडस्केप डिजाइन, प्रोफेसर वैभव, कंस्ट्रक्शन मैनेजमेंट, प्रोफेसर प्रशांत, अर्बन डिजाइन, प्रोफेसर अनुपमा, आर्किटेक्चर एजुकेशन, प्रोफेसर गौतम, एनवायरमेंट एंड वैल्यूएशन, प्रोफेसर विशाखा, कंस्ट्रक्शन मैनेजमेंट, प्रोफेसर निशांत, स्ट्रक्चरल डिजाइन, प्रोफेसर चैताली, डिजाइन, प्रोफेसर प्रशांत, डिजिटल स्किल, प्रोफेसर अमृता, डिजाइन, असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर अलाइड, प्रोफेसर गाडगिल, हाउसिंग एंड इंस्टीट्यूशन, प्रोफेसर हीरे, टाउन प्लानिंग, प्रोफेसर अभंग, फाइन आर्ट्स, प्रोफेसर सुप्रिया, सस्टेनेबल आर्किटेक्चर, प्रोफेसर वैष्णवी, डिजिटल आर्किटेक्चर। हमारे विजिटिंग स्टाफ जिनको कि प्रोफेशन में 10 से 35 साल का अनुभव है, प्रोफेसर निकम, प्रोफेसर अशोक, प्रोफेसर गद्रे, प्रोफेसर आप्टे, प्रोफेसर दीक्षित, प्रोफेसर शाह। हमारे हेड लाइब्रेरियन अर्चना मैडम ये डिजिटल लाइब्रेरी साइंस में PhD होल्डर हैं। वैसे ही राहुल जो कि कंप्यूटर डिपार्टमेंट असिस्टेंट है। महत्वपूर्ण सक्षम एडमिन डिपार्टमेंट में मिस शिवानी, मिसेस स्मिता, मिसेस अश्विनी और ऑफिस असिस्टेंट विजय, अजय की अच्छी और अनुभवी टीम है। अपने महाविद्यालय के अध्यापक अपनी अध्यापन उन्नत करने के लिए विभिन्न कार्यशालाएं जिनमें विशेषज्ञों का और मार्गदर्शन का प्रबंध महाविद्यालय हर साल करता है। इन कार्यशालाओं पढ़ाई के लिए 9वें सेमेस्टर में प्रोफेशनल ट्रेनिंग या इंटर्नशिप और 10वें सेमेस्टर में विद्यार्थी अपने पसंद के डिजाइन प्रोजेक्ट चुनकर थीसिस प्रोजेक्ट करते हैं। महाविद्यालय में शैक्षणिक अध्यापन के अलावा अनेकों संबंधित विषयों की संपूर्ण जानकारी के लिए विशेष गेस्ट लेक्चर्स आयोजित किए जाते हैं। विशेष गेस्ट लेक्चर्स के विषय बिल्डिंग सर्विसेज, कंस्ट्रक्शन टेक्निक्स, हाउसिंग, यूनिवर्सल डिजाइन, रिसर्च, डिजिटल जैसे अनेकों विषयों में होते हैं। इसके अलावा विद्यार्थियों के साथ केस स्टडीज और साइट विजिट्स किए जाते हैं, जिससे उनको प्रैक्टिकल जानकारी भी मिलती है। महाविद्यालय स्तर पर क्लास वाइज विद्यार्थी गांव से लेकर अनेक राज्यों में वो की ट्रेडिशनल नॉलेज सिस्टम, ओरिजिनल सेटिंग और प्लानिंग का अनुभव लेते हैं। वहां का सोशियो रीजनल पहलू भी समझते हैं। बच्चों के कला गुणों को अवसर मिलने के लिए अनेक थीम बेस्ड प्रतियोगिता, हैंड्स ऑन वर्कशॉप्स, सांस्कृतिक प्रोग्राम्स का हर साल आयोजन होता है। जिसमें सब विद्यार्थी घुल मिलकर हिस्सा लेते हैं और पारितोषिक भी जीतने का प्रयास करते हैं। प्रतियोगिता में बेस्ट आउट ऑफ वेस्ट, साइनेज, क्लास डेकोरेशन, ओरिगामी, फेस पेंटिंग, आर्किटेक्चरल क्विज जैसी प्रतियोगिता और खेल प्रतियोगिता का भी आयोजन होता है, जिसमें इंटर कॉलेज और राज्य स्तर पर भी भाग लेते हैं। हमारे विद्यार्थी इंटर कॉलेज वर्कशॉप्स और रिसर्च इक्विटी में भी सहभाग लेते हैं। हर साल विद्यार्थियों की शैक्षणिक और अतिरिक्त हॉबीज की प्रदर्शनी होती है, जिसमें सामाजिक विषयों पर भी बल दिया जाता है, जिससे आर्किटेक्चर अभ्यासक्रम में जागरूकता बढ़ती है और विद्यार्थियों को प्रोत्साहन मिलकर सामाजिक रुचि भी बढ़ती है। अभ्यासक्रम पूरा होने पर सावित्रीबाई फुले पुणे यूनिवर्सिटी के सहयोग से होने वाला पदवीदान समारोह भी अपने महाविद्यालय कैंपस का एक आकर्षण होता है। आर्किटेक्चर की पदवी प्राप्त होने पर विद्यार्थी अपनी उच्च शिक्षा तथा व्यावसायिक और इंडस्ट्रियल क्षेत्र में अपने देश और विदेश में विविध अवसर प्राप्त करते हैं। कोविड-19 के पैंडेमिक सिचुएशन में हमारे कॉलेज में सभी शिक्षक और विद्यार्थियों ने ऑनलाइन टीचिंग और लर्निंग पद्धति का अवलंबन किया है और वो भी बहुत ही यशस्वी तरीके से किया है। और विद्यार्थियों के लिए फिजिकल गेस्ट लेक्चर सीरीज के बजाय महत्वपूर्ण विषयों पर प्रोफेशनल आर्किटेक्ट्स द्वारा ऑनलाइन लेक्चर सीरीज का नियोजन भी किया है। हाल ही में अपने महाविद्यालय ने ऑनलाइन नेशनल रिसर्च कॉन्फ्रेंस 2021 का सफलतापूर्वक आयोजन किया, जिसमें पूरे देश के विभिन्न शिक्षक, प्रोफेशनल्स और विद्यार्थियों ने सहभाग लिया। सभी विद्यार्थियों के स्वस्थ शरीर और मन के विकास के लिए एक निजी संस्था द्वारा होलिस्टिक हीलिंग फॉर टेंडर माइंड्स नामक प्रोग्राम आयोजित किया जाता है और उनकी अपनी डिप्रेशन जैसी समस्याओं से उन्हें छुटकारा मिल सके। अपना महाविद्यालय आने वाले अक्टूबर में ISO 21001-2018 में ऑडिट एग्जाम और ऑडिट के साथ ही सर्टिफिकेशन जैसे मान्यता में अगले कदम की प्रतीक्षा में है। महाविद्यालय में सावित्रीबाई फुले पुणे यूनिवर्सिटी के सहयोग से कई फंडेड उपक्रम भी होते हैं, जैसे कि नेशनल सर्विस स्कीम, स्टूडेंट्स डेवलपमेंट के अनेक वर्कशॉप्स के साथ ही अर्न एंड लर्न स्कीम भी आयोजित होती है, जिसमें स्टूडेंट्स लाइब्रेरी और एडमिन ऑफिस में काम कर पढ़ाई के साथ साथ कमाते भी हैं। हाल ही में अपने NSS के छात्रों ने ग्रामीण भाग के विकास हेतु अपना योगदान देने के लिए भाग लिया और सावित्रीबाई फुले पुणे यूनिवर्सिटी के हाथों प्रमाण पत्र भी हासिल किया। आपदा प्रबंधन के माध्यम में अपना सामाजिक उत्तरदायित्व रखते हुए अग्नि सुरक्षा कार्यशाला का आयोजन NDRF के माध्यम से किया, जिसमें सबको आग से बचने के उपाय, CPR टेक्निक के साथ अनेक बचाव उपाय सिखाए गए। कोविड-19 आपदा को ध्यान में रखते हुए अपने विद्यार्थी और शिक्षकों ने अपने शारीरिक और मानसिक स्वास्थ्य बनाए रखने के लिए सावित्रीबाई फुले यूनिवर्सिटी के माध्यम और सहयोग से आयोजित 3 दिवसीय ऑनलाइन योगा और मेडिटेशन कार्यशाला में सक्रिय सहभाग लिया। अनेक सामाजिक कार्यों का आयोजन महाविद्यालय में समय समय पर होता है, जैसे कि ब्लड डोनेशन कैंप, अन्य डिजास्टर रिलीफ फंड्स रैली, प्लांटेशन, स्वच्छता, साइबर सिक्योरिटी, ट्रैफिक सेफ्टी इत्यादि। आर्किटेक्चर अभ्यासक्रम के अलावा भी अपने महाविद्यालय में इंटीरियर डिजाइन और फूड प्रोसेसिंग तथा क्वालिटी कंट्रोल विषय में 3 वर्षीय पदवी अभ्यासक्रम उपलब्ध है, जो मान्यता प्राप्त है और सावित्रीबाई फुले पुणे यूनिवर्सिटी से संलग्नित तथा NSQF यानी नेशनल स्किल क्वालिफिकेशन फ्रेमवर्क से कार्यरत है। विविध मान्यता प्राप्त इंडस्ट्रीज के सहकार्य से विद्यार्थियों के लिए प्रायोगिक अनुभव के जरूरत अनुसार इंडस्ट्रियल ट्रेनिंग भी दी जाती है। महाविद्यालय हर साल एक वार्षिक पुस्तिका प्रकाशित करता है, जिसमें एक साल अभेद्य नाम से विद्यार्थियों का शैक्षणिक और कला कुशलता से युक्त अंक प्रकाशित होता है और अगले साल एस्पायर नाम से शिक्षकों और विद्यार्थियों के शोध निबंध उपक्रम प्रकाशित होते हैं। भविष्य में अपने महाविद्यालय का मास्टर इन आर्किटेक्चर और पीएचडी स्टडी सेंटर खोलने का प्रयोजन है। आप सभी के सहयोग से ही हम विद्यार्थियों की प्रगति में अखंड सहभागी हैं। प्रवेश हेतु आप सब इच्छुक विद्यार्थी और पालक दिए गए फोन नंबर्स पर जरूर संपर्क करें। धन्यवाद और शुभकामनाएं।
Good morning, all. Hello. Good morning, all. We are awaiting for participants to join in for another couple of minutes, and we will start at 11:10. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, participants. Good morning, all. Anupam. Good morning, all participants. On behalf of Anantrao Pawar College of Architecture, Parvati, Pune, I, Professor Vaibhav Ghudke, would like to welcome you all in this today's webinar on excellence in architecture. With the overwhelming response in the first webinar and demand from aspiring students to organize such a webinars, we came up with this series of webinars. Architecture is the mother of all arts and has a very vast scope in studies and profession. And it's a never-ending journey of excellence in this field. If we have a right mentor to guide along in this journey, it would be a feather in the cap. Today, we have two expert guest speakers and mentors who have a prominent position nationwide with us. Architect Vijay Garg sir, practicing architect and acting president, Council of Architecture, New Delhi, 2018-19. Also, we have architect B.R.Mohan sir, Chairman, Indian Institute of Architects, Karnataka chapter, Bengaluru, to guide aspiring students. Also, uh, now I would like to request Professor Shailaja Bhagwat ma'am to introduce our principal, Dr. R.B. Koi sir. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Good morning, all. This webinar is going to unfold various aspects of architecture, both academically and professionally. I am thankful to Dr. Rajendra Kohli, Principal, Anantrao Pawar College of Architecture, for conducting this type of online webinar for all the aspiring students during this pandemic situation. I am glad to introduce our principal, Dr. Rajendra Kohli. He has professional experience for more than 25 years in various types of works. For last 35 years, he is working actively in the field of academics. He has completed his doctoral program in earthquake-resistant designs. Dr. Rajendra Kohli has worked as a subject expert and COA nominee for various staff selection committees. His wide experience in teaching in Shivaji University, Kolhapur, Solapur University, Savitribai Phule Pune University, Pune is remarkable. He has also worked as a resource person for evaluation and affiliation of PhD center and expert for doctoral research committees. So now I request Dr. Rajendra Kohli to welcome and address the participants.
Very good morning to all, and I welcome all aspiring students as well as parents and our keynote resource persons for today's our last webinar. Actually, I'm glad to have a expertise and resource person for all of these 4 webinars we are conducting for last July and August month. And we have organized independent programs on vocational courses, that is interior design, food technology, as well as architecture. Now, here at this last today's webinar, we are having with us renowned architect and mentor to all our architectural new institutes, architect Vijay Garg sir, whose guidance and whose involvement in architecture education profession for last more than 30 plus years is always being a very guiding light to all of us. As well, also the practicing architect and professionals, architect B.R.Mohan sir, who is also having today with us. He is chairman, Indian Institute of Architects, Karnataka chapter, and having various prestigious awards for his professional career. He is awarded with the hands of late Honorable Atal Bihari Vajpayee, a prestigious award for his hospital building, as well Ultratech Private Limited also awarded his prestigious building for best concrete award. So these 2 personalities will definitely guide to all our fraternity as well as aspiring students in excellence in architecture. And with their interaction and in considering this pandemic situation, definitely this is a knowledge bank for all of us to have various whatever the issues we are having for these admissions or for these academics, careers, professional activities, and about the noble profession of architecture. So once again, I welcome all the participants, students, parents, and resource persons for this webinar. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to request Professor Sunil Kumar Bhosle, sir, to introduce today's first expert guest speaker, architect B.R.Mohan, sir. Over to you, Bhosle, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaibhav, sir. Good morning, both the guests, Vijay Garg, sir, and architect B.R.Mohan, sir, and my fellow students, aspiring students. Architect Mohan B.R., I would like to introduce him to you. graduated from University Visvesvaraya College of Engineering, that is UVCE, in 1985. After a brief stint working in Bangalore, New Delhi, and Mumbai, founded Architects Incorporated in 1991. He has over 35 years of experience in professional services with expertise in large-scale healthcare projects, residential projects, institution layouts, and commercial projects in major cities of South India. He has extensive experience in many technologies with key focus on designing and detailing with new technological solutions. He has been in the core group organizing state, regional, and national conventions for practicing architects as well as students. Always in the forefront in fighting for rights for architectural fraternity, he has also been actively involved in talks with Government of Karnataka to formulate and amend rules pertaining to bylaws, architects registration, and to get their government actively involved in architectures in designing community spaces. Another driving passion of architect B.R.Mohan is teaching and sharing experiences with students and has been examination juror of various colleges in Karnataka. He has held professional positions on professional bodies. Notably, he is currently the chairman of Indian Institute of Architects, Karnataka chapter, Bangalore. He has also been previously the vice chairman, honorary treasurer, and a member of the Indian Institute of Architects in Mumbai and Karnataka. He is also a member of the bylaw review committee of Bruhat Bengaluru Mahanagara Palike, that is the Bangalore Municipal Corporation of Government of Karnataka. As Dr. Koi rightly said, he has received an appreciation and award from the late hands of our ex-Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee for his projects of Satya Sai Hospital in 2001. He has also been awarded the Ultratech Award for the Best Concrete Building in Mysuru in 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. B.R.Mohan today. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sunil Kumar Bhosle, Dr. Rajendra Kohli ji, and entire faculty of Anantrao Pawar College of Architecture for giving me an opportunity to share few things with the aspiring students and anxious parents. It is my pleasure and honor to share this platform with our mentor and former acting president of Council of Architecture, Dr. Architect Vijay Garg. Good morning to one and all. First of all, you all might have researched by now and know what is architecture and what does an architect do. But I still want to briefly try and explain this in just a couple of points. Architecture is one of the oldest professions known to mankind. Ever since he stopped being a nomad and emerged from the caves, man has had the need for shelter. The profession also changed from just being a mere provider of shelter to embrace all arts and science and technology that was discovered and developed over the period of time. Architecture is a study and practice of designing the buildings, community spaces, structures, and other elements that shape the built environment. It's a combination of art and science. Architecture is all around us, and architects have a big impact on everyone's lives, whether one likes it or not. In India, architecture is deep-rooted in its history, culture, and religion, right from Indus Valley civilization. Indian architecture progressed with time. It has seen many eras, like rock-cut caves, early Middle Ages of temple architecture, Rajput architecture, Buddhist architecture, Mughal architecture, European colonial architecture, and now it is a time to have our own style, Indian contemporary architecture, embracing our culture. An architect is a person who designs buildings and other structures. He engages with the client, visualizes, and comes up with a concept which later on is translated into drawings, and instructions are given how to build them. They're also responsible for safety of the people living in those. Is also should be sensitive to the environment and design accordingly. Everyone who builds cannot be called as an architect. You must earn a degree in architecture, register in Council of Architecture, and then only you are called as an architect. Well, that is not enough. One needs to get properly trained and gain experience before he or she ventures out on their own. You are at crossroads today of your life to choose your future. When there are umpteen options before you to choose, then why architecture? Well, I'm just going to put out a few questions to you all, aspiring students. Do you enjoy helping people? Do you want to put your creativity to good use? Do you enjoy solving puzzles and thinking about how things work? Do you want to learn something new almost every day for the rest of your life? Do you have passion for people and space and environment? Do you get inspired by creating something great? Are you the person who wants to interact with diverse group of people, help them to realize their dreams? Do you want to have the satisfaction of creating something and seeing it turn into reality for the rest of your life? Well, if your answer is yes to all of the above, then you might want to become an architect. Next question, I think everybody would like to know is, what do you learn in architecture school? How different is it from the other courses and kind of learning you have experienced so far? Architecture is different from most of other courses. First of all, compared with other profession courses, we work more with our hands than reading and writing. This is practiced from the day one in your school. One requires skill where both sides of our brain is activated, that is creative as well as logical. The course draws a bit of mathematics, physics in engineering, alongside creativity and an understanding of modern technologies and cultural needs. In architecture, unlike in any other professions, what you study and graded will be approximately 65 by 35%. That is 65% will be practical and rest would be theory. Whereas in other courses, it is just the opposite. 65% would be theory and the balance is practical. And you very well know, you have been taught so far in the similar type. A traditional classroom teaching is what you have been taught so far. That is basically more of teacher-centered. All attention is concentrated on the teacher and the board. They are in charge and direct all activities. It is more of teaching from the books and the notes. The teacher-centered approach does not facilitate the students to participate actively in the learning process. It is not wrong, but does one enjoy one-way teaching anymore? That's a question to be answered. Whereas in architecture, when I say 65% practical, it is more of studio teaching. What is studio? Studio teaching is neither classroom teaching nor a lab session. It is an approach to teaching and learning where students actively engaged in directing their own learning. The instructor is not the focus of the class. He is there in the class going from one table to another, answering your questions and giving feedback on your work. It is more of interactive class where your creative abilities are explored and developed, and it is where students learn how to cultivate and transform their creative thinking abilities into practical designs. This is what we call it as crit teaching. This constant crits helps the students evolve their design. During the entire semester program, the school invites either practicing architects or academicians from other schools to assess what you have done. They also scores and grades you without any bias, as they don't know you and they don't judge you by person as a person. Only your work is judged, and usually it constitutes a part of the student's final grades. Well, it takes hours of dedicated work in the studio, and most of the students really enjoy the time spent creating and discovering the new ideas. I'm sure by now, I think you would have known what kind of subjects you're going to learn in the next 5 years if you opt for architecture. Well, I just want to tell briefly the subjects. I wouldn't go on explaining each one of them. Probably, I think once you get into the college, your professors would take you in depth of what you're going to learn. See, they are kind of divided into core subjects, and some are electives and some are compulsory professional enhancement subjects. The core subjects cover architectural design, where you are taught the principles of design and design process. It all begins with a small activity during the first few semesters, and the complexity will increase progressively. Then you have something called architectural graphics. This is to introduce the students to various concepts and techniques of architectural and graphic representations. Then you have history of architecture. You must be wondering why history in architecture. Well, this is to study the culture and architecture from early civilization right up to contemporary, now the present days, to study how designs evolved and changed according to times. Then you have something called principles, theory of architecture, urban design, housing, landscape design, well, carpentry and model work making workshop. This is a fun. And the specification, estimation, and budgeting. And then we have a building sciences, that is study of building materials, where you study the properties and behavior of both natural and man-made materials. Then you have a building structures. Once you design your own building, you should know how it's going to stand. So for that, you need to study the structural concepts and behavior of structural elements. Then you have something called building construction. You design, yes, but how is it built? What is it necessary? So you need to have the knowledge of how it is constructed. So you learn every aspect of construction. Then you learn the climatology, how the climate helps the built environment. Then you have something called building services. You need to know how water supply is brought into the buildings, electrically, mechanically, and their integration with your design. So you need to have all this basic knowledge. So one is taught during the course of the 5-year program. Then you have some other subjects similar to the nature, environmental sciences, acoustics, And you have electives where you can choose environmental responsive architecture, heritage documentation, product design, interior design, journalism, and so on. And I don't think in any other profession, there is something called professional ability enhancement courses at all. I'm not too sure about it, but I don't think any other discipline has, whereas architecture do have. They teach you the practice, the professional practice, how to practice once you complete your graduation and get into the practice more. So the business aspects is taught there. Then you're taught project management, how to manage a project, right from the design to the construction. Then you have a semester of internship program where you are supposed to work with an architect for a semester and learn the practical aspects of practice and design. And apart from this, you have skill enhancement courses too, like communication skills, which is very much necessary in this era, computer knowledge, digital graphics, entrepreneurship skills, and so on. And most of these subjects, I'm sure it is fun loving and one really enjoys learning. This is all, I think most of it is studio based where you interact. Probably by now you also should know what is in store once you are done with your graduation. India in recent development agenda has earmarked huge budget for the development of smart cities, dwelling units, affordable homes, better infrastructure. Apart from all this, the government is focusing on transformation of urban and rural areas, slum rehabilitations. It has been estimated that to realize this government's development vision for the next few years, there is a requirement of over 75 million skilled people in real estate and infrastructure industry, out of which over 4 million core professionals are needed. That includes architects, engineers, and planners. Even if you consider 1/5 of them are architects and planners, which would be around over 8 lakhs. How many do we have today? We have less than 1.5 lakhs registered architects. How many are graduating every year? Around 20 to 25,000 approximately. Out of which, how many are in India working or practicing? Could be about 50%. So just do a simple math and see for yourself whether architecture has future scope or not. Never our profession was so promising. The onus of responsible development rests on the next wave of architects and planners, that is you all. So my dear friends, never ever think architecture is saturated. As long as there is growth in any other profession, be it any engineering discipline or information technology or medical, law, businesses, as long as one wants to shop, wants to eat outside, wants to travel, wants to see places, then you have a role to play. That too, very satisfying role. You must be wondering, after architecture, what is the scope? What do you do? What is your career path? Well, just after architecture, after you get trained properly and venture out, you can either go on to practice on your own. It is more of a general practice, or you can specialize in niche practices. Like you can be an expert in hospitality designs, you can expert in airports, institutions, private residences, group housing, commercial spaces, interiors. The list is very long. You can go on. Then if you are not geared up for private practices, you can join a government office. But this might require a post-graduation degree. Or you can become a project or a construction manager. Today, the trend is for project management firms to offer end-to-end solutions to corporate clients. Or you can specialize, just like any other profession, let's say medical profession, architecture also a specialist. B.R. degree holder is kind of jack of all. He can design it all by himself for small and medium scale projects. But for the larger projects, either he associates with specialists or refer it to them. There are some specialization, just to name a few, just to give you an idea. You can get into a landscape design. You can become an urban designer. You can become a conservation architect, or you can become a sustainable architect. If you have a flair for legal, you can become an arbitrator or a valuer. You can become acoustics expert. If you are a technology person, then you can become a 3D visualizer or a visual communicator. If you have a flair for writing, then you can become an architectural journalist. You can become an architectural photographer, lighting designer, product design, industrial design, furniture design, or you can get into academics too, which is considered the noblest of all. There are over 400 colleges in the country today, and it is logical that teachers are needed in large numbers. Teaching can also lead into research. You can become research scholars. Well, I think I've taken a bit of your time. And before I wind up, I would like to dwell a little bit on Indian Institute of Architects and its objectives, on what we are doing to shape the students and young architects to face the profession. Well, our association started in 1917 as a Architectural Students Association from Sir J.J. School of Art. Today we are over 100+ years old. Over the time, members began to seriously consider an improvement in status of the association. The word students seemed inapt for a body that had practicing architects. So in 1922, it was rechristened and called as the Bombay Architectural Association. 7 years later, the association was reorganized and registered as the Indian Institute of Architects. Few of the primary objectives of the Indian Institute of Architects related to practice are how to combine the effort of the architects as to promote aesthetic, scientific, and practical efficiency of the profession. To look into things which affects the practice of architecture, to hold conferences or meetings to exchange the news on matters affecting architecture. We, the Indian Institute of Architects in Karnataka, realized that we need to do much more than these and also look at what students and young architects look for from such an old professional body. So what did we do? We constituted few committees to address and focuses on the education, young architects, and professional concerns. Just to briefly take you with these three committees, the Education and Academics Committee, basically, it is formed to bridge the gap between academicians, students, and practicing architects. It is really very much necessary in this era. We arrange industrial and site field visits for the students. We arrange special lectures for specialized subjects from the industry experts for the sake of students. Have a pool of architects who can be the jurors. help the institution to set up good material museum by sourcing materials, arrange special talks by the eminent architects. Young Architects Committee focuses on career counseling to conduct workshops for young architects who are stepping into practice to hold their hands. Basically, something called finishing school. Once we have our own building, we want to create some space to work or meet, something like co-working space for the young architects and graduates who pass out and want to practice, but they don't have kind of infrastructure for themselves. They can meet their prospective clients or the contractors in these spaces. Our professional concern committee, both young as well as senior architects, face a lot of professional issues, even now, even after 100 years. Right from drawing out contracts, where we help the young architects, and we address if somebody else infringe your work, your idea, your baby, and we take legal steps to solve this, and many more issues which one come up, we are there to address. I sincerely hope all the chapters in the states of the country addresses these kind of issues, and I'm sure in next few years, I think they would. I think I've taken too much of your time. Thank you all for listening to me so patiently. This itself shows that you're all ready to become an architect. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful insight and guidance. And now I would like to request Professor Anupama Sonpitle to introduce our second expert guest speaker, Architect Vijay Garg, sir. Over to you, Anupama.
Thank you, sir. Am I visible?
Anupama madam, you are not audible.
Hello. Hello. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ravi sir. I think I am now audible to all of you.
Ma'am, your voice is too low.
Your voice is very low.
Hello. Now, hello.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Vaibhav sir. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce our guest for this online guest webinar series, Professor Vijay Garg sir. He is a practicing architect. And principal architect of Vastukli Consultant. He was acting president of Council of Architecture in 2018 and 2019, and vice president of COA from 2016 to 2018. He was also on Council of AICTE from 2016 to 2019. Architect Vijay Garg is a very active in Indian Institute of Architects and is credited with various publications and initiatives at Northern chapter and at the national levels. He was also being the chairman of the Alumni Association, an institution of national importance under the Ministry of HR. Architect Vijay Garg has been widely acknowledged as the founder of Profession First, an initiative for the welfare of society through architects and architecture. During his career for the last 30 years, he has worked with various state and central level government organizations. He is a chairman of the State Level Environmental Clearance Committee, New Delhi. He also served as an advisory for various districts of Rajasthan. He
is been working with Delhi government on water issue with our minister. Apart from all this, the best thing that we can see is that being so busy with his schedule in his professional career, he is always accessible 24/7 to all the students, faculty, and professionals for any concerned issue. Moreover, he also helps and guide upcoming institute in their establishment and development. So now I request Professor Vijay Garg sir to proceed to today's session on architecture on this excellence in architecture. Thanks, sir. Over to you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, Professor Rajendra Kohli, for organizing such an event to basically apprise the upcoming student or the people who are interested to join architecture to know what architecture is all about and to take a considered view and decision before joining the profession of architecture and understand what is architecture is all about. And I also thank my dear friend B.R.Mohan, who very briefly and touched upon the various salient features of the profession. And he also told you what Indian Institute of Architecture is all about. So there are two bodies in India. One is Indian Institute of Architects, which protects the interest of the architects, which looks after the welfare of the architects. That is the prime objective of the Indian Institute of Architects, being 105-year-old body and working across the length and breadth of the country with so many volunteers like Professor B.R.Mohan and helping the younger professionals and the profession to grow, and at the same time to help them tackle the issues which come in day-to-day practice of an architect's life. And it is a hand-holding body for the young architects and to establish their practice, work, and in case of any difficulty, they try and help the fraternity to solve all such issues. Whereas the Council of Architecture is an statutory body, which means the Council of Architecture is a body which is created by an act of parliament, basically to supervise that no unauthorized person practices architecture, thereby meaning the only profession or the profession of architecture is being regulated by the government, that no unauthorized person can practice architecture. So you can practice architecture only once you are registered with the Council of Architecture. Any other person who is practicing or using the word architect also is unauthorized, and they cannot do so without the registration with the Council of Architecture as per the Architects Act 1972. So this is the only regulated profession in the whole gamut of built environment professionals, or a huge amount of professional services which is being provided in the space called built environment. So all of you who wish to join architecture, as Mohan sir has already explained to you, is a combination of art and science, of design of buildings with input from technology or how to construct structures and construct buildings. And at the same time, thermal comfort of buildings, all such things, and to shape the life of people, which is most important in the whole sphere. Thereby meaning that we as an architect are responsible by way of design of buildings, design of spaces, or shaping built environments, that we can change the habit, the way people live. And we can also predict or modify the way people respond to various situations. So that is an important fact, because architecture is one profession which takes care of science, which requires constant input from science and technology, but at the same time humanities and all other aspects and domains of the education. Most of them, other than maybe a few aspects from the medical education, all are ingredients to becoming a good architect. as Monsar said, at undergraduate education, we are known as jack of all trades and master of none. What does it mean? It means that we study socio-cultural, technological reflection, and our buildings, what we design, the spaces, what we design, has to be a socio-cultural reflection of the society and the time it is built in. That is why when we study history, what you study in history, you study buildings. Buildings are created by architects, and these buildings actually tell the whole story of that time. That building will tell you how the people lived. That building will tell you how people behaved, and that building will tell you what were the taste of people, what were their culture, what were their interests, and what is their achievements. All that is coming from architecture. So architecture is one thing which leaves impression for centuries. And like if a doctor makes a mistake, only one patient will die and people will forget with that person's death. But if a chartered accountant will make a mistake, it is 1 year balance sheet gone. A lawyer will lose a case, nothing far reaching. But if architects make a mistake, the history will remember, and the time to come will tell what is not to be done and what mistakes and how it can damage the attitude of people, and that the society's living can be affected. A good architecture can create brotherhood, can create harmonious living, and create a brotherly feeling among the people who live in that space. The color, the texture, and the kind of interrelationship of various spaces, which is very important. And what we talk about with all that is durability and utility of the structures. And then beauty of the structures is equally important, which is considered by architects. And as Mohan has already explained to you, when man came out of caves and formed settlements and live in groups and constructed shelters, beginning the journey of architecture. And architecture is all about how people progressed from ancient time to now. And all that story can only be narrated by the work of the architects and the built environment which they prevailed at that point in time. So what is important that we showcase the buildings, what we create is showcase the power, money, and technology of that particular time and era. It explains how people behave, how people rule the cities, how people govern settlements, and how these structures, the people used to live and celebrate life. So it is all about celebration of life, which architects create and which is known for times and times to come. So function and utility, because that is why we study history, and history and sociology are important ingredients in architect's life. An architect develop an attitude, an architect should have an attitude that we will solve the problem. And we are always part of the solving problem. That is one of the biggest positive factor about architecture, that architectural education teaches you that we will be part of solution. An architect always provides solution for anything and everything. So you bring a question to a studio or a class. So what is unique in architectural education compared to any other education in engineering or chartered accountancy or law? That all these education, that if you have a question, you have only one answer. And that answer can be read from the book and repeated. But in architecture, one question can have hundreds of answers, and all could be right answers. So how the answer is arrived at depends on your creativity, how your response, and how you want to look at the issue. In our class, when we have 40 students normally in a class, and a problem is given, and all 40 solutions, all 40 architects or 40 students of architecture comes out with different solutions. And all solutions are what to be right. And they are all their responses in a particular situation and with particular kind of a set of people who will be using the environment, and their perception, how they are reacting. So there is no one solution for creating a building, and there is no perfect. So every solution, it could be a right solution. And it is like Mohan has already explained to you, we don't study books, we basically create from our creativity. There's no set solution. It only gives us from study of books and the technological classes that what can be done, how it can be done, and what should not be done. Rest, whatever can be created can be created as per our creativity. And that is where it gives an ample opportunity for all of us who become architects to shine in life, to rise, and to show that our competence, and we can be known for whatever work we do. And every structure is a signature of an architect on the built environment, and it will be remembered for years and years to come. A building life which is estimated to be minimum of 100 years, and sometimes if you see ancient history, it could be 1,000 years. Depends on how it is built, in what environment it is created, and if it is extraordinary buildings, then people try to conserve the building. They constantly upgrade, constantly support and treat in the changing built environment, so that the buildings stand and make a statement. Like if you look at the historic buildings like Qutub Minar, Taj Mahal, or anything, they tell a complete story of that era, or even the forts, if you look at. So what we are talking about, we are talking about understanding the built environment, the understanding the way people live, the understanding how we respond to the built environment. And that is what is taught in architecture, thereby meaning not only architect only design buildings, we can do anything and everything what comes our way. It is a basic education at the undergraduate level, which will develop an attitude of problem solving and a competence that we can do everything, and we are capable of sustaining our built environment. And sustainability, what we talk about, using the resources to the best possible manner, whatever it is, whether it's constructing building or constructing infrastructure or living life, because architecture is about way of living life. Architect is the person who will tell people how to live life and enjoy life. A good space design can mold the people's response in a particular situation. And that is where the architects can take pride, that if you go to a particular structure, you behave in a particular fashion, and that is what create a response from that space. And that is where the architects can take pride, that whatever they have done and how that will affect. Because architects design the aesthetic functions, or the aesthetics and functions of the building as per the need of a user, which is the client normally. And so most of the time when it is government or is a public, when you don't know a client, you have to make a study of a larger context where you can satisfy the larger number of people, different unique features. Everybody has a different style of working and different response. But at the same time, you can create spaces which can be useful and handled by everyone and different people in a different manner, but still one solution can suffice all such requirements. So we talk about building services, for like what Mohan sir has told you, the building services and systems, which basically means like you water supply in the building, electricals, horticulture, or whatnot. Today you can talk about automation. You must have the building intelligent buildings which will respond, and climate responsive buildings, and socio-cultural building, which is basically religious buildings, or you can talk about landmark buildings, or a political statement, or a center of power buildings. So all that is created by architects, and all these buildings or built environment which we create has a reference to time of the history when it is created, a geographical location, and materials used in that particular era and particular time at that particular location. Because all that has an impact on the development. And then to suffice that we are also responsible for safety of the built environment. What does the safety of the built environment would mean? That the safety of built environment will mean that we also study fire safety. In case of fire or in case of an earthquake, how do you make the building safe so that the people don't die and people are safer? And we create buildings which are in all situations help people to survive and save their lives. And that is where the architect's importance and response would be of immense importance. At the same time, budget and finances of the client and the person who's building those buildings become of immense importance. So all that we have to keep in mind. We study a large number of subjects. At the same time, we get to know all the building laws. We get to know the human habitat style, because whatever we design, we basically do studies based on which we then develop our structures. And as Mohan has already explained to you, in a studio exercise, we normally interact with each other one-to-one and try and solve each and every student's issue by the faculty or the practicing architect. And his particular response, the way that architect or the student would think, will develop a responsive structure to that particular situation. That situation meaning the budget, the location, the geographical location, the environmental conditions, and the aspiration of the user for what they want to use. At the same time, respecting the lands of the law, how and how much the building to be constructed, and who will construct it, how we will get the materials, what is the materials composition, what is the chemical composition of material, how the chemical composition of the material will react to the environment, what kind of gases it will create, whether it will be healthy for the people who will live there or not. So all that is come in the ambit of the architect, and is a huge amount of responsibility. At the same time, is a very interesting profession, which gives you inside out of living and developing an attitude of solving problem. What is most important is that we are here to solve problems for each and everyone in the city, in the country, in the mankind. And we are one profession which always are part of creating happiness all around. And that is where I take pride of becoming an architect, because architects are always generally approached when normally people are happy. They want to construct building, they want to build environment, they want to develop something, and they all celebrate life through structures. And during the 5 years of 5 years is known to be a larger period of study, but the kind of structures we study and the kind of number of structures we study is huge. Or number of subjects we study are quite large, and those large number of structures actually give us understanding how to develop these buildings and structures. So these subjects what we study in 5 years is a small module. That is why 5 years is a very limited time frame. And to become an architect, to become a successful architect, you must need to work in the field, work under the guidance of the architect, and try and develop your specializations in the allied professionals. And we also work with a lot of allied professionals. You can also join and specialize in the allied professional after doing graduation. You can do landscape architecture, you can do urban design, you can do building construction management, you can do environmental sciences, you can do architecture journalism. There are huge number of subjects which you can do planning, you can do interior designs and interior. All these domains are very well versed, and in today's environment, huge number of people are expecting our profession to deliver each and every happiness to their life of living. So that is where we can also contribute to the response what the climate change we are talking about. We listen to that the climate is changing and it is not helping people, and we need to actually work on how we can save the people from climate change, and how we can help our cities and governments to govern cities and save on change of the effects of the climate change, how we can do energy saving, how we can do cost saving building. All that is to be done by the architects. At the same time, we are supposed to be respecting the laws. We are supposed to create buildings which are not only safe, which create a good traffic movement, generate good communication between the people who live, and the living style of people is equally important. And that is where when we talk about the basic professions, we also do valuation, we also do town planning, and then professional practice is taught as a part of the integrated part of the course. And it is a 1 semester module where we teach professional practice, what are the ingredients of professional practice as per the handbook of the Council of Architecture. And the Council of Architecture is supposed to protect the practice of architecture, but at the same time, and the Council of Architecture role is to punish the people who are delivering bad services or not performing as per the aspirations or the expectations of the society and the architects are to deliver. But at the same time, the Council of Architecture also prosecutes the unauthorized people who practice architecture without being competent in the field or not registered with the Council of Architecture, not having a requisite qualification and registration. So employment in architecture profession is huge. According to me, as Mohan sir has already told you, the only 95,000 people as of yesterday are the practicing, good standing practicing architects available as per Council of Architecture. There are 135,000 people who are registered, but only so much people are available. And that includes the people who are practicing, the people who are working in the private sector, the people who are in the government sector, and people who are registered but not available in the country. So we request everyone. So before you take up this profession, you must understand the complications and you must understand what you can enjoy from this profession. This profession has a lot of things to offer you in terms of developing attitude of life. And that is why one need to understand how we can improve the life of people, and we can take pride how people can live life to the fullest. And that is where architects can contribute. And Council of Architecture is one body which actually protects the practice of architecture. And I'm sure all of you must have studied, understood, because in a small time, it is very difficult to explain the complete role of Council of Architecture of Indian Institute of Architects. Indian Institute of Architects role has already been explained by Mohan, and I tried to actually touch upon certain aspects of the role of Council of Architecture, which is basically a prosecuting body for architects and controlling the profession practice of the architects, and at the same time setting up out the rules for teaching and practice of architecture. And Council of Architecture has a manual which gives you all kind of guidance in this matter. And at the same time, we are expected to deliver and work as per the aspiration of the people. And with not taking much time now, I'll thank Anantrao Pawar School of Architecture for inviting me and putting me before the young aspirants of architecture. I'm sure all of you should be convinced or would be convinced to join architecture as a profession, and wish you all the best. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'll have another 5 minutes to answer that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Garg sir. That was a wonderful explanation of the professional side of architecture. And thank you, Mohan sir, where you explained the actual how the student subjects are taught and what subjects are studied. I think students got a very good insight today. I would now open the whole thing for question and answer session. Students, can you please ask questions? Okay, we have one question. When can we architects as professionals, what difference is professional practice? Saklin, can you just reframe what difference in professional practice? Yeah, sir, this I'll put it to Garg sir. One student says, what's the difference between a professional practice and business in architecture?
See, business is basically to make profit, and profession is not, is a service to the nation, where you actually deliver not for the profit, but it is for the technical and the professional. That is what we said. You are developing an attitude of society, developing or serving the people to develop a building or a content which is technically sufficient, aesthetically comfortable, and comfortable for people to live in. And it is not for the gains of the profit, and it is not with the consideration how much money you will make out of it. So that is the basic difference between a profession and a business. Business is always when you make some investment and you make money out of it, but profession is you get paid for it is called honorarium or a fee for service, but service is not with the intent that you will get such money in lieu of whatever you give, but because you give much larger thing and much bigger thing which can not be quantified in terms of money, and it is not for the gains of money. That is a major difference.
There's one more question from aspiring student Tanmay. He says, how can we develop our own style? I mean, and either one of you all can take it. Either Garg sir.
I think developing our own style will come from when you do studio exercise, and when you go through the profession, you end up developing your own style. It is not like that you will develop, because every architect is their own unique style. And I don't think two architects will design the similar thing, and unless they try and copy. If the originally any architect will try and attempt, they will definitely have their own style. And that is where the training of the architecture in 5 years takes you. And that is where the faculty is contributing, or the teachers contribute in the School of Architecture in 5 years. And that is the unique thing about it, that you develop your own style eventually.
You will have your own style if you don't copy.
Yes.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true, sir. Very nicely said, both of you all. There's one more question from Malvika Bagul. How COVID-19 situation has impacted the career in architecture, and why is it important that architects need to get registered in Council of Architecture? Garg sir, can you focus on this?
Yes. Because architecture is a regulated profession. What does it mean? Because you are supposed to be controlling, you are supposed to be heading the built environment. So whatever buildings you are making, you are giving the direction to the engineer to construct, a contractor to build, or allied professional, you guide how do you make it. But at the same time, for the safety of the society, because buildings are creating a statement of time, and you are you're only creating history, you are creating a statement of time, and at the safety of the people and health of the people is at stake. And with all that responsibility at your shoulders, it is very much necessary that you are subjected to some kind of regulation, some kind of responsibility. That is where the responsibility of the Architects Act 1972 comes in, and that is where it monitors. That is why your registration with the Council of Architecture become mandatory. But if you don't behave in a particular manner and do not take care of the health of the people, security of the people, safety of the people, then you can be prosecuted for professional misconduct and your license can be taken away. So that is why the registration with the Council of Architecture will become important. Mon, if you want to add something.
Yeah, thank you, sir. There's one more question. I think Mohan sir would like to answer this. What are the subject-oriented specializations after B.Arch? Just throw some light on this, Mohan sir.
Like I mentioned in my this thing, of course, if you want to specialize, you need a post-graduation. B.Arch is just a basic degree. But specialization, definitely you need to get into post-graduation, and you have landscape. If you are interested in designing the green spaces around you, you can become an urban designer. You can become a conservation, where if you love heritage architecture, you can become a conservation architect. You can, if you love the environment, you want to contribute to the environment, you can become a sustainable architect, so on, like architectural journalism. photographer, lighting designer, product designer, interior designer. These are the specialized courses, but one needs to get a post-graduation degree for that. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Mohan sir. Garg sir would like to say something. Sir, we can't hear you. Sir, your mic.
I would like to take leave because I have another meeting scheduled, which was at 12. So thank you very much. And if
Okay, sir.
I need to answer, I'll reply later.
Yeah, there's one more question from our friend, sir, if you can answer that before leaving. G. Raja from Chennai says, what is your advice for young architects? What they need to do after their UG? Is PG necessary? Thank you, Mr. Raja.
I think what is important is after you do undergraduation, you at least work 1 or 2 years in the field before you join PG. So you know your aptitude, what subject you want to take PG in, and what is the objective of taking PG. So PG can be done with 2 objectives. One is going into academics. One is doing practice in the specialized field. So that is what you need to understand. After undergraduation, you work 1 or 2 years in good architect's office, try and understand the implication of various subjects, go to a school of architecture, try and understand what PG courses they offer and what is the advantage in the field and what is in the academics. And you have to take a considered decision whether you want to join academics for a larger interest or want to practice. So then you take a decision, not just for the heck of it, you do PG, that you want to do PG, and that will not actually help and you get confused. That is my piece of advice. Rest I'll leave it to Mohan sir and you to discuss. And I'll take leave because I'm hard pressed against time.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And regards from Koi sir also. Thank you very much, sir, for joining the thing and guiding us young architects and the aspiring architects. Thank you very much, sir. Any other questions? Mohan sir is here. Students, aspiring students.
Like I said, architecture is an interactive course. So I like people to come out with questions so that we can answer. So we'll start from today, interacting with people.
I have a question.
Yes, Shreya, ask.
How long one should do a job and when shall one can start the practice?
Sorry, can you repeat it, please?
Sir, how long one should do a job and when shall one can start doing practice?
Well, it all depends, but a couple of years is definitely necessary to gain knowledge, the practical knowledge once you graduate from the college. Probably, I think I would say anywhere between 2 to 5 years is good enough. If you're doing masters, then probably like Vijay Garg said, 2 years minimum of working, and you'll get to know in what direction you want to head. And then you can do your post-graduation. If you're not keen on post-graduation, probably you have to work between 2 to 5 years and learn the ropes of practice and different kinds of buildings. Probably you might have to, we don't know if you are joining a particular office who deals with all kinds of work, then yes, you will learn a lot. But if there is a specialized niche practices, then probably I think you need to learn and then move on to another office, learn something else there. So anywhere, I think 2 to 5 years is a must.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Anybody else? You can also ask questions. Hello? Yeah, Sakleen Sheikh, kindly ask you can ask your question. Instead of typing, you can ask it.
What is process of registration of IIA and COA? It is mandatory.
See, once you graduate, registering in Council of Architecture is mandatory because it is not just you pass out an architecture course and you're called an architect. No, you need to register yourself in Council of Architecture to be called as an architect. So that is a mandatory for every architect. And IIA, joining IIA is not mandatory. It's a professional body. It's an association where we primarily focus on bringing out conferences for exchange of ideas, exchange of new concepts, new technology, plus addressing the professional issues, holding hands of young architects. This is the role of Indian Institute of Architects, and it is not mandatory, but it would be nice because whenever we have a problem with the government to take up, if we don't have a voice or numbers, nobody is going to hear us. It's a democracy. Basically, more the people, they will start listening to us. So it is important that if you want to bring in some changes within the practice, it is necessary to join association also. But it is not mandatory.
Okay, thank you, sir. One more question.
Yeah.
Yeah, ask, Saklin, ask.
COA registration is accepted in foreign countries like US and UK.
To practice, no. You need to take their own registrations to practice. COA registration is mandatory to practice in India.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So there was one more question from one Mayur Shirsagar. What is the main difference between an architect and structural engineer? And can an architect do both?
Yeah. Yes. Architect learns both art and science, like we mentioned that, where you design, you conceptualize, you visualize, you come out with a design. And structural engineer is basically will work on the structure aspect only, how to make it stand. And that is more of engineering subject, whereas architecture is both a science as art. And architect can do both, but I would suggest not to venture into structural this thing, but if you don't know the structures properly, if the building fails, the onus is on you. So it is better to give it to the specialized person to handle the structures. But there are few architects who have done masters in structural engineer also. So those guys do both. They practice architecture as well as structural, but you need to have a degree for that.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? This is turning interesting. Students, yeah, Malvika Bagul, please ask. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Sir, how has COVID-19 situation impacted the career in architecture?
COVID-19, yes, it is difficult. Like I was stressing upon so much of studio classes, interactive classes. That is what I think the architects are missing out. And that has impacted to a certain extent, where we are not able to, I think those tutors are not able to look at the drawings in the works of the students in clearly and guide them. Yeah, I think we will overcome this COVID-19 issue. And recently, I think yesterday or something, I think in Maharashtra, one of the institute has given a representation to the government to start the offline classes for architecture. I think they should start now.
Yes, sir. One of the school HODs and principals did give a application to the Higher and Technical Education Minister and Vice Chancellor of University Pune, Savitribai Phule University also.
Okay.
Sorry for disrupting you.
Yeah, that's what I read in one of this thing yesterday. Yes, I think even in Karnataka, I think we are starting offline now.
Thank you, sir.
Professor Sandhya Manjunatha is here. Would she like to ask something, ma'am? Sandhya Manjunatha, ma'am, Professor Sandhya Manjunatha. Can you hear us? Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else would like to ask any questions? Aspiring students, please ask your doubts.
I just want to say this architecture is really a satisfying profession. Even over 35 years of practice, my practice, it's not even a single day I feel I'm stressed out. I enjoy doing every single day. I look forward to go to office, look forward to meet the clients, look forward to meet the contractors, go to the places, the sites where we are designing. And that's the best part. I mean, end of the day, you are not stressed out. You still enjoy, ready to go back and keep doing, working. And architect never retires.
Yes, sir. That's very much visible on your face, sir. Yeah. Anybody else, or shall we call it a day? Students, aspiring students. They have had it enough. So shall we wrap it up, students? I would ask Professor Vaibhav to take over. Professor Vaibhav Gorke.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, sir. This is quite interesting question and answer session. Now I would like to request Professor Vaishnavi Jagtap to put a vote of thanks. Over to you.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, Vaishnavi, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have reached the end of this knowledgeable webinar on excellence in architecture. Today, I, Professor Vaishnavi Jagtap, take this opportunity to put my gratitude into words. To begin with, I would like to extend my heartiest thanks to our Honorable Chief Guest, Architect Vijay Garg sir and Architect B.R.Mohan sir for their presence in the webinar on behalf of college, management and all students. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your inspiring and motivating words. All our doubts about architecture profession and education got cleared, and we now have a clear vision about the same. Architect B.R. Mohan sir enhanced the knowledge about architecture education in today's modern time, while on the other hand, Architect Vijay Garg sir enlightened the knowledge and scope of architecture profession in this rapid world of technology. In addition, I would like to thank our dignitaries, Architect G. Rajan from Chennai and Professor Sandhya Manjunathan from Hyderabad for their presence in the webinar. I wholeheartedly thank our principal, Dr. Rajendra B. Kohli, our academic coordinator, and our staff for their support and guidance for organizing such an event. Thank you, sir, for assisting and encouraging all of us. We have been fortunate enough to get the support of the management and trustee for making this webinar successful. I would like to mention special thanks to our media team, Nexa College Dunia, good friends for their support. Furthermore, I thank all the parents and inspiring students for their presence in this morning. To conclude with, we are glad that our guest speakers took out time from their busy schedule for this webinar and addressed all the participants. I would request all the participants to please check the chat box. We have posted all the admission related information and get in touch with us if you need any more details. Or you can visit our website www.apcoapune.org. Thank you and hope to see you all soon in person. With this, I would like to conclude today's webinar about excellence in architecture. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mohan sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, Professor Kohli would like to say something to you. Just hold on.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much,
Yes, yes.
Professor, for giving an opportunity to share few insights to the aspiring students. And any students can get in touch with me on my email also. So I'll be happy to answer their questions.
Yes, sir. We also thank you for your all inputs for budding architects, and definitely we should whenever the physically will open a good interaction at Pune. So I request you and invite you also to our institute in Pune, where we can definitely have your input for our architecture students as well as the architects of Pune. So thank you, sir, for your best presentation as well as best your interaction with our students. Thanks you.
Thank you.